let me introduce our first amazing speaker today, my good friend, attorney Art Saratelli. Art has been practicing law since 1993, and he is the partner at Saratelli Miyal, an immigration law team who appreciates that clients are coming to America to build a better future for themselves and their children. That's amazing. He is a long-term collaborator of ICOA. Art and his team, Mara Miyal, is very dedicated to supporting international students and his clients. Every email that ICOA send to Mara and Art, we always get response so fast, like within a day, and her advice is so helpful. Art is joining us from Virginia Beach. Art, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and next is an amazing lady, Naisargi Dev. Naisargi is now pursuing the job that she really loves as an environmental engineer and scientist. Naisargi and I met when she was in her last year of OPT, and at that time, Naisargi's goal was to change her job from academic to industry. And her dream finally came true when she secured this job offer at this environmental consulting firm in Nebraska Lincoln back in 2020. And she is now on her H-1B visa, which was approved in 2021 after the second round of lottery. So you will learn from her journey of changing jobs at her last year of STEM OPT and her 2 rounds of H-1B, the H-1B lottery. Naisargi is joining us from Nebraska Lincoln. Naisargi, welcome.
Thank you so much, Coach Kwan.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, both of you. So I'm gonna have 3 questions that pretty, something that lots of students normally ask me about work visa options here in the US. And I would like to start with Art. Art, we all know that actually, students, international students, we don't need to ask about sponsorship right away because we all have that CPT and OPT. We have work authorization that we can use before asking for future sponsorship. But, at the end of the day, we all want to stay here long term. And I would love you to share a little bit with us on the pathways for other visa options, including H-1B as well, for F1 students.
Okay. Thank you, Coach Kwan. I have a summary slide, and I won't get into all the details right now. So this slide alone, I could take a whole hour just on this one slide, and Coach Kwan will kill me. So what I'll just make a point of mentioning is this. One, if you're working with Coach Kwan, you're probably really, really smart, and you've got really impressive companies looking for your services and they want to hire you. Big companies know how, even mid-sized companies, some of them know how to work the H-1B system. So you don't have to explain visas to companies that already know. And Coach Kwan has all sorts of links to figure out which companies and which employers in America have sponsored H-1Bs going back 20 years. There's data. And 2 websites Coach Kwan uses are promoted by Coach Kwan. And if you know your employer sponsors H's and they've done it in the past, you don't want to talk about the H-1B sponsorship the first words out of your mouth. But if you only rely on H-1B and they give them away by a lottery and you don't win the lottery, you can't apply for the H. So not only do you have to get the job offer, you got to win a lottery. It's random, chance, dumb luck. And then you got to apply for the H-1B if you win the lottery. If you don't win the lottery, then what? So what I have in this chart, and I can email you, I have a PowerPoint presentation. I promised Coach Kwan last time I'd send her the PowerPoint, and I didn't because I was updating it. So now it says spring 2022. I'll send it to everybody who asked me for it, and I'll send it to Coach Kwan so she's got it. It's my email if you want one. Just email me at immigration.art@gmail.com. My official email at the law firm is, everybody misspells it. So I started immigration.art@gmail.com. It's just easier to remember. But anyway, the point is, if you don't want to rely on starting your career with the lottery, there are 11 other choices, 11. And I have slides that will explain all of these with words and YouTube videos. And the ones that are between these two gray lines are based on your citizenship. Your country, if your country has a treaty with our country, America, you can get one of these. So if you're under the E visa, if you are Japanese or French or German or from Cameroon, if you find a job in America with a company in America that's owned by a Japanese company or that's owned by a French company. So if you're French and you get a job at a French company, you can just get an E2 because you're alive and you're French. What? So if you're French, maybe now that you know about this E visa, if you're French, you might want to start adding some French companies into your list of job search targets. Why? Because if you get a job offer, there's a visa waiting for you and there's no lottery. No lottery. There's a company that makes the jetways that go down from the gate in the airport to the door of the airplane. It's a French company makes those. They're our client because someone from Embry-Riddle, the Aeronautics Institute in Florida, got a job at this company. And his job was to make sure the jetway didn't ruin the airplane surface or make it unworthy for air travel. So why did I say that? Because the French company that makes the jetway is starting to hire French students. Why? Because this kid was French and he knew, because I told him that there's this E2 visa, he explained it to them. HR calls me and now I'm their lawyer. I didn't ask for that. I mean, it's nice that I'm their lawyer. I just want that kid to get a job. See, so you email me. I'm not going to send you a bill. My goal is to help you and help Coach Kwan get you a job beyond the H-1B if the H-1B does not come through for you. And there's other choices, multinationals. You could use an L1. Say you go to Ernst & Young or Deloitte or Accenture and they love you, or Google and they love you, or Amazon and they love you, and you lose the lottery. Do you think they want to lose you? No, they'll send you outside of America to work for one of their offices anywhere in the world, Amazon, anywhere. And then they bring you back after a year and a half, but at least a year, they bring you back and you come in as an L, and you're not an H, you're an L. Or you could do the French company thing, or Cameroonian. Good luck finding a Cameroonian company in America. But if you use the E, it's a similar thing. You're not coming back as an H. You don't even have to leave if you're in E. You just stay here and go from F1 to E. L, you have to go work outside for a year. But there's all kinds of choices in this list. That's the point. And if you know which ones you want here, work backwards and include some companies in your job search that give you a plan B if you lose the lottery. But play the lottery, because as you'll hear from Naisargi, she's won the lottery and she'll tell you how that feels and how it all went at work.
Definitely quite a journey for Naisargi, but that is so helpful. And I really always love your advice about, work backward, right? Know what type of industry you want to join. And then that will also determine your visa types as well, your nationality and everything will be the advantage for your visa types. And everyone look into Arts on YouTube. He has lots of amazing YouTube videos to give you advice, even about how to answer that questions about will you now or in the future need work visa, sponsorship in the future, right? You provide such a great advice on that.
Yeah, but you know what's so funny? I told my daughter Kwan's answer, Coach Kwan. My daughter is American, but the point that Coach Kwan made was, yeah, I have answers if you're asked, but the goal is never to be asked. Coach Kwan says, go to look for jobs in the, what do you call it?
Hidden job market.
The hidden. I was calling it underground job. The hidden, the hidden ground.
That's a good one.
You network with human beings who can give you a job offer or a job lead for a job that's not even advertised yet. That's how you get a job. You think that's going to lead to questions about your visa? It's going to be at the human being level. So Coach Kwan's answer is the best. Don't even go there. But if you happen to be stuck there, then I'll give you answers. I have some ideas on how to answer. But the goal is never to be asked.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. And I think, we also want to learn a little bit from real experience from Naisaki, right? Naisaki, you were searching for a career change when you were in your last year of your OPT, and that's where we met, right? That was the time that we met. And you finally got a job that you love and your employer wanted to sponsor you. It sounds like dream comes true. Everything should work out accordingly, right? It should not be any hiccup. But that first round of your H1 lottery system, you didn't get selected. Can you tell us a little bit about how you handled the situation at that time?
Yeah, I mean, as we've discussed, I probably should have worked backwards, and I did. It's not that I didn't, but I had some ideas about what to do if it doesn't get selected, but I didn't really want to take any of them, because I still wanted to work at my company. It was a great fit for me. Even my career, I didn't want to leave this career that I'm in. So initially, when it didn't work out, it was a bit of a roller coaster because my employer is still a sort of mid-sized employer, but not everybody was aware of the whole visa situation. So I had to first sit down more than a couple times to explain why it even matters so much that I was not selected in the lottery. They started giving me options at that point because we had a good connection. So they started giving me options like, all right, so what if we just hire you part-time? Now, international students cannot do that thing where they just quit a company and then they just work for part-time on just like an hourly basis as needed. We're not allowed that as international students. And at that point, even my OPT was going to end in September. So this news I get around April, and I have from April to September to make my decisions and choices. So of course, at that point, I was also very transparent about everything with both my employers, so my past employer with whom I worked on my OPT, and then my new employer who planned to sponsor my H-1B. I was transparent with everyone. So I really went back to my old employer, and that was the University of Nebraska. And we've not discussed this yet, but there's two ways you can get H-1B. One is through the lottery, one is without the lottery. The one without the lottery is that nonprofit route or university academia route. So we started having those conversations at that time to see if we can make it happen before September. However, we also had COVID, and because of COVID, they were in a hiring freeze. So it was almost like I had this list of options, and one after the other, all the gates started closing for me. All those doors I thought I had, they started closing on me. So that one wasn't an option. And then I contacted Art and Mara both. And I had a lot of conversations at that time with Mara to see what my options would be. She was extremely helpful. We discussed so many options, like getting 2 H-1Bs where I get my first H-1B, which is a co-sponsored H-1B or whatever else that's called in the law world. The first H-1B would be sponsored by a nonprofit, and then my company can sort of jump on that wagon and join them. And that way I work for two people. I don't have to leave my current employer. Anywho, that one was a challenge because if you work in corporate private companies, there are some laws about what you can and cannot do in your professional life outside of this job. So I cannot really be working for a company or even a nonprofit that's sort of called a competition. And for H-1B, I still have to work within my degree and within what my education is. So that scope has to be the same. So that was a conflict. So again, that door closed, and all of this is happening through so many months. And at the end of all those lists, I just came down to the decision that, all right, I'm going to go back to school, get my PhD, or maybe do second master's. Maybe I'll start as a second master's and then convert it to PhD, because I wasn't really sure if I was going to really stick around for those 2 years of PhD, at least. So in that process, my old connections were really helpful. The connections you make at the university, you think you'll be out of the university, but in these situations, it is extremely helpful to go back and talk to them. And if you spend your time making them understand what all of this means, they'll probably get it, probably. And in my case, it was good because I actually worked at a global institute where people come from all over the world. So I didn't even have to explain, they understood. So at that point, we could actually make it work. I got my admission into the university. Then I went back and talked to my international students office. And I think I saw that there's an educator who wants to support the international, at least one, probably more, but we have someone in this webinar also. So if you are a person and you're listening right now, I will say it is extremely helpful to understand this, because my ISSO office, the International Students and Scholars Office, they really helped me to understand that I do not need to go do my PhD right away in the fall semester, simply because my OPT is ending in September. Fall semester starts in August. I thought I should be safe, take my admission in August and start my degree, which means I would have to quit my job by July or something. And obviously in this whole process, this whole second round is kind of up in the air. They don't really tell us that they're actually going to do it, so you cannot rely on that waiting period to see if they'll do that second round of lottery. So I started the process, but then my ISSO said, hey, you know what? They actually did multiple rounds of lottery last year because they are having troubles filling these 80,000 spots out of the 200,000 applications they get. Because of COVID, people are not able to travel to the US. And so they're having some empty spots after the first round. Not everybody goes through with that application. Not everybody is approved on that application either. So why don't you just wait until the spring semester, see if they'll do that second round. And because the way we will issue your I-20, you can actually stay in the US for 2 months before your start date, something like that. There was some like timeline thing that they worked out. And they said, hey, if we give you this admission, if we give you this I-20 on X date, then you can actually be in the country for Y number of months prior to this start date, which means you don't even have to leave the country if there is no second round, if you do run out of your OPT, you can spend those good 3 months of fall taking a vacation and start your degree in spring. So that gave me a lot of hope.
Normally this tells you go back to school. What happened to Naisargi is rare, and she's got a great ISSO advisor. That person, we were there to bounce ideas off. That poor young girl needed options and she didn't even know where to start. So that's what we help with. We'll help with the case if your employer doesn't have a lawyer, but that's not the point. Our point's to help you and make you feel confident. And then ISSO normally says, oh, you already got your OPT. We can let you back in and just go to school. But for them to strategize the way they did, that's so rare, and it's great. Find those people. There are people in career office and in ISSO all over America that are like that person, but you got to find them.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with that, because I don't think this would have happened if it weren't for my ISSO at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I think I would have panicked and taken that fall admission, and I wouldn't be here right now even talking about this. So that was incredibly helpful. So some of the laws, well, not laws, but policy guidance or whatever regarding this is that once your OPT ends, I think you have about 1 month to stay in the US after your OPT ends to kind of get to your new status. And then if you have that admission, then you've kind of proved your status. And so if you have that I-20, then I think you get about 2 months before your I-20 start date that you can be in the US. And for me, that was a great overlap. But the only reason I was able to achieve that is because this is not something I used to do a lot, but I put my clear expectations forward first. I started these conversations with saying, I don't think I really want to go back to doing a PhD. I mean, if it comes down to it, I will definitely wholeheartedly do it. I do like studying. I have no problems with it, but I don't think now is the right time for me. And so once you make this clear, it just helps other person help you. Because otherwise it's all confusing. And it used to be like this with me. They would ask a lot of questions like, so what do you really want? So anyway, that was a long story of roller coasters. So I'll
It is, but I think
hand it back to you.
Naisargi, thank you for sharing this experience. And in summary, I feel like if the students experience this roadblock, right, they should definitely talk to their circle of support system, immigration attorney for sure, back to their international students offices, right? Never lose the contact with them, and career coaches. So all of these 3 options, and also international students who's been through and done that, just like yourself as well, to gain more other options. Yeah, thank you for sharing this experience, and congratulations on this H-1B. It has been a roller coaster ride, but you did it. You made it.
Yeah, thank you. It definitely feels, when you do get it, it really feels like winning a real lottery that comes with money, because it kind of does. You keep your job, you get to keep your salary.
I know. Yes, I'm so happy. Like in 2021, every year I send out the email to all alumni asking if you got the H-1B lotto, that first round. And I remember you and another friend also didn't get that first round, but both of you got the second round. So I'm just so happy for both of you. Okay, I would like to come back to Art, because we all heard about, some rule amendments of the H-1B visa program that is scheduled for May 2022. Can you please help us understand a little bit on all those changes that they call H-1B visa program reforms? What will be the changes and what we expect to see?
Well, the short answer is so far there are not that many changes. So their big one that was written up a lot, headline, Biden is considering immigration agenda and some crazy Trump ideas are still on there. One of those was, and if you think Trump is not crazy, then very rational, good ideas were still on there. Anyway, the idea that was still on there because Biden, the unions love Biden. Biden is a union guy, union, and you know the stereotype. You know, these foreign people, they work for peanuts. Not true. It's so not true. You raise the standard of our workforce up, and the American workers should use you as an example. So anyway, Biden is so union. He kept the Trump idea of somehow using salary paid to rank H-1B lottery entries, meaning it wouldn't be a random lottery. It would be giving away H-1Bs by money. The highest paid person gets an H-1B slot, and then they file, and then the next one files, and then the next one by money. That's no good. That's terrible. That's even worse than a lottery. So it was still on the list. But then, thank God, the Chamber of Commerce sued the government and said, no. You're irrationally ranking the worth of a human being by their salary. No. So the federal court killed this law once and for all. And it wasn't even a law. It was an interpretation. There's no rule that says run a lottery. That was made up. In other words, the guy who's in charge, the president, runs a company. The company has rules. That's passed by Congress. If the Congress's rules are a little vague and you got to do something to solve a problem, that's what the president does. So Trump tried to solve the lottery problem by making you a walking symbol of salary. You're nothing but a dollar sign in his eyes. Because that's what he is in his wife's eyes. So anyway, I'm kidding. So no, I'm not. So what the bottom line is, all the people who have been worried since Trump was president that the lottery is going to be run by salary, you don't have to worry about that. So now this is going to sound horrible, but unless something is in writing that they changed a policy interpretation or there is a new law, I don't even read it because it's all a bunch of hot air. And there's this one Forbes magazine author. His name is Stuart Anderson, S-T-U-A-R-T, Stuart Anderson. He writes with intelligence and he's informed. He understands what he's writing about. I trust him. If I were you, I'd Google Stuart Anderson Forbes, and you want to know what's going on, read that. Every other reporter has no idea what they're reporting on. So that one change, don't worry about it. The lottery is random. There were some other changes that were, I don't know if we talked about this during the broadcast or before in the green room, but if you study a STEM major, in the olden days, getting an O1, an extraordinary ability, that was one of the visas on my 12 work visa list, the 12 of them besides O. So the idea is here, now this is real. This is real. I had to read it because the Biden said, I'm implementing this rule starting today. Here's the problem with the law on the books. If you study STEM, we want you, but there's not enough H-1Bs. There's not enough H-1Bs to keep you. So what do? We're going to find another category and say STEM majors satisfy the requirements of that category just because you studied STEM. And he did this in a low-key profile. I hope nobody notices, but I think they will. Because, God forbid American unions are going to complain. If you need to be a union member as a scientist, you're not a good scientist. Just do your job. So the the point is the O1 visa now, you don't have to be the best in the world at what you do. If you study STEM, the Biden administration says you are already among the best in the world, because not everybody can handle engineering or mathematics at a high level, or computer engineering, making oh, I don't know, simulations and all these other things. They do algorithms, I don't know. But not everybody can do that. So the very fact you got a degree in it, you should get an O1. That's a good change. The other change, and why did they do that? Because there's not enough H's. So that's a way to change the H problem with an O1. Another thing they did is the green card. If you study STEM, just because you studied STEM, you are working in something called the national interest of the United States. And if you work in the national interest of the United States, you're allowed to ask for your own green card. What does that mean? It means you don't have to ask HR. You don't have to beg anybody at work. You don't have to make people blow their political capital in the hallway to help you. And then you owe them, blah, blah, blah. Work would be great if there were no other people. So the point here is, if you studied STEM, Biden just opened up a doorway for you to blow off the H-1B. If you lose the lottery, you blow it off. Don't worry about it. Try for an O1. And once you get the O1, if your employer doesn't want to do the green card, or they want to do it in the future, vague promises, you get your own. So those are two areas that jumped to mind. The other one was something about raising the overall salary level for H-1B workers. And if Kwan wants to share this, she and I spoke about this last week. There's one database that the government actually uses to judge your pay rate. The government regulates the H-1B category. The H-1B category is over-regulated. And one thing they look at is how much you're paid as part of your application. So if you have a master's degree and you supervise 10 people, you're probably not entry level. You're probably, with that education and a supervisor job, you're probably second level of sophistication in the workforce for that job. So they set levels of wages. The union guys are afraid these wages are too low. And so there's been loose talk about jacking up the wages. I haven't seen it, but if Kwan wants to explain what I'm talking about a little further.
Yeah, thank you for pointing this out, Art, because, since like last year, students started to reaching out to me and ask about this prevailing wage, right? And this H-1B salary that will be changing, but that's no change. So anyway, I just share all those information that you mentioned in the chat box. So everyone look into the chat box. I shared those details with you. Normally, what I have seen is, for students, we all position ourselves, like ICOA students, we position ourselves as a talent, as an expertise, as a specialist in their field, right? And normally, when you become the expert in your field, the salary that you can target could be up, like if you look into Glassdoor, it could go into above 50th percentile, which, for example, with the lots of our students landed a job as a data analyst, and their salary, starting salary in entry level, is at 90,000 US dollars. Like, let's say in California, in New York. And we know that, like, once we look into the information that I just shared in the chat box, the starting salary for data analysts could be about 60-something thousand US dollars, which we much above that. However, Art, I really love another part that you shared with me. We also need to read into that job description as well, right? And making sure that, like, even though the title is data analyst, is the job title is pretty close to management consultant or something else, That means your employer and the attorney need to work very closely in filing your H-1B. So reach out to Art. He has extensive experience in this area, and you don't want to work with other attorney that might not have lots of experience with the H-1B filing, because there are so many complications.
Or they're too rigid. The other lawyers are too rigid and they're afraid to put, it's only about labels. Labels are words. Words are vague. I could tell you why I think that word means this, and you could tell me why you don't. And it's just words. So for example, Kwan, it was awesome. She went to the San Francisco wage section of the FLC data center. That's in the chat. The FLC data center is used by the federal government to approve your H and to approve your green card. And Kwan said, well, this is a data analyst, but I'm reading the management analyst description, and the salary is 90. And the database for the government says it's $69,000. Is that right? And the answer is, yeah, that's right. Because for the San Francisco Bay Area, there are startups, there are little companies, there are big companies, and maybe one company's data analyst is another company's management analyst. I don't know. It's all, there's no way that database is accurate. So you look for anomalies. So if I were working with you, and I wouldn't charge you unless I was the lawyer filing the case, if your lawyer and your company's telling you, oh, I'm sorry, the prevailing wage is too high, then you know what they're doing? They're using the wrong label. They're picking the wrong salary. So I'll give you 3 or 4 other choices, and then you take it back to them. And what do I get? If you don't pay me, what do I get? The satisfaction of making another lawyer sweat and make him feel like he's on the hot seat because he's trying to make your parents' child, you, disqualified for a job because he's too lazy to find the right label. It's not brain surgery. Kwan got it instantly. Kwan went through the list. She said, this kid's a data analyst, but look, the wage could be as high as 90 if you call a management analyst. And you read the duties, they overlap. It's not exactly data, but it's not exactly not.
Great point, Art.
So my salary is passive aggressive behavior that I get to exhibit to make another lawyer uncomfortable. That's what I get. That makes me happy. And I'm a petty, angry, bald, short guy. So maybe it's a good outlet for me instead of violence. You know what I mean?
We will never see any other immigration attorneys like you, Art, in my life. No. And
because it's someone's child. This young lady, Nisargi, is someone's child. And if we can help her get a job by answering simple questions, it's a sin if we don't. That's how we work. That's what we do.
That's amazing. And we start to have more questions right now. And you guys, if you want to ask questions, feel free to turn up your microphone as well. We got a question from Isabella here. She asked, what are some of the criteria to be considered for O1 visa?
All right. So these rules are so new. I'm just thanking God I knew that they existed. I will send you, so that young lady in the chat, I'll put my email me and I will send you the rules. But basically, if this young lady, Isabella, studied STEM, try the H-1B, and you'll notice Nisargi, she did a consideration of H-1B with the lottery, and there's another category, one of the 12, H-1B without the lottery. She was getting run in circles, but she had to at least know there were choices. She even considered concurrent H-1Bs, and that was running in circles. So if she knew about this O1 thing, and it was timely enough under Biden to be implemented, it could have helped her. So what I'll do, because I just know it exists, this rule, I'll send it to you. And my email again is immigration.art@gmail.com. And you simply put in the subject line, you put in the subject line, I see a way, or Coach Kwan, and I will look at it right away and send you the
Sounds great.
material.
And I already shared your email address in the beginning of our chat as well. And Isabella, I know that you have access to ICWay Talent Platform. Okay, look into immigration advice module, and in there you will see lots of advice from Art and contact information of Mara and template that you can ask her. So use that template in the platform, because once you send Mara that message, she will get back so quickly within like half a day. All right, and we also have a question from Ravinder here. Let me monitor the time as well. We have about, 12 more minutes here. Ravinder asking about, in general, when someone is offered a position but don't win H1 for the first time, do large employers usually keep the offer open for another year, or is it typical to need to reapply for, okay. So maybe this is something that I can answer. I believe so, about the employer, right? So Ravinder, normally I think your case is like you already got the offer, but you already started working for the company as well, and the company filed that H1B. Let's say you got the offer this February, and they give you the H1 right away, right? But then you don't get that first round. It really depends on your relationship with that company. There is no one size fit all for this. There's no black and white. But normally, from the employer's perspective, there is the business needs that they want someone to start working right away. If you don't have that work authorization and cannot work for them, there's a possibility that they will have to look for other candidates, right? But another option is, just like Art mentioned before, for global companies, they can also transfer you to the country that you're eligible to work in, right? And you can work remotely from that country. So that could be the option for large employers. Art, do you have any inputs that you want to add here?
Yeah, so what Kwan just said about they'll transfer you to one of their offices where they're allowed to work. The easiest one is the country listed on your passport. You go back
Right.
to Beijing, right? Work for Coca-Cola in Beijing. But I know of a young Chinese girl with a Chinese passport who worked for Ernst & Young in Boston. They sent her, because she lost the H-1B lottery, they sent her to Ernst & Young in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
They got her a work visa for the United Arab Emirates. You want to talk about the global economy? Chinese girl working in Boston in America is sent to Dubai with a Dubai work visa in her Chinese passport to come back ultimately as an L1 to work back in Boston. What? So if they love you, they will find a place and they'll find a way to make it okay for you to work there, like getting you a visa to work in Dubai. I mean, it's all about you. Do they love you?
Mm-hmm. Great. Right. It's about you, right? If they really love you, they definitely want to try their best to keep you, transfer you to Canada or any other options as well. Yeah. All right. And we got a question from Emmanuel here asking about that national interest waiver green card self-application route. Is it confirmed to be implemented post-May 2022?
It's now. Sometimes when you read the articles, like that guy in Forbes, Stuart Anderson, he recites what the executive order, Biden orders the government to figure this out using the law we have, and they will have target dates. But this one they did fast, because I guess everybody had a pet peeve. There's not enough H-1Bs, and there's not enough people getting into line for green cards fast enough, because we're losing every smart person we educate to other countries, thanks to the other president who may be in criminal court soon. Pray to God. So anyway, the point here is, as I told Isabella, you'll see two things with my answer. One, I'm proud of myself that I know there is this law, this interpretation, this guidance, and it exists and it's active now. So I know that at least. But two, I know when I don't know. So the details, these are the details I know for NIW. One, it applies to all STEM majors, just like it did to the O1. So if you study STEM and graduate, you are automatically in the national interest going out into our workforce. And it also is for business people. It's for business people like entrepreneurs. If you start a company or plan to start one, and you've got business projections or business actual results on OPT that you hired people and you're in the financing stage, that also is a national interest waiver, self-sponsored green card. Now, the details of how to prove that, that's what I don't know. So like Isabella, look in the chat. I will email you the link to all the rules, the details of the rules, if you email me, and it's something we could read together. I promised Isabella I'd read the rules with her, and it's not because I'm a nice guy. It's because I don't know what the hell the answer is, and if I read with her, I'll learn too. So I'm not embarrassed to tell you when I don't know. And together, you'll see. And you don't need to go to law school to read this stuff. I'll show you how just a regular person could read it, because I feel like a regular person with a law degree. I mean, I look at me, right? You know what I mean? Don't be intimidated by this stuff. All right. So whoever asked about the NIW, I'll help you, just like Isabella.
That's amazing.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Someone has a questions that would like to turn up the microphone and ask?
Yes,
Coach,
please. My name is Christopher. So I'm a business major here at the University of Cincinnati in my last semester. So I'm graduating in April. I'm very close to securing a job position that will sponsor my H-1B visa. The salary, like the employer was very clear. It's going to be 40,000 if I get that job position. But then if I don't get my H-1B next year, because it's just 1 year, like no STEM extension, what do you think will be the best option as a non-STEM student by the time that I do not get that first round of H-1B?
Well, that, if you want, email me and I'll send you what I'm going to send to Coach Kwan to add to the module and take out maybe. Oh, I've been getting a lot of requests to access certain charts in the old slides. Google reset the security settings, and I have to give people access. So maybe these new slides will avoid that. But I've been answering every single one. I've been giving the students all the access. But the point is, we would go through those 12 visa choices together and figure out which ones could you use where you are? Which ones do you need to maybe look for another job? In other words, you might be stuck in the situation poor Naisargi was stuck in. You heard her story. She had to take the OPT work she had, leave it behind and find something else because it wasn't working out. The coming together of the end of OPT and a solid visa to stay where she was, it wasn't happening. So you got to take the bull by the horns and figure out what you can make happen. And in her case, thank God, the school, the ISSO, made her have a breathing room by using the F1 status grace period and period of waiting before class starts for the next degree. And then there was another lottery round and she, thank God, won. So you would have to think of the best possible scenario and the worst. And I could help you go through those. And just email me and we'll set a time to figure out when to talk about that.
Excellent. Okay, and Vishruth, thank you so much for sharing Art's email as well. Yes, Vishruth has asked to use his ICOS students. And we also have a few more questions. I know that we on top of the hour right now. Let us do this. I don't think that we can cover all of these questions here, but what about this, Art? I can share your contact information in the caption of our recording and also that Bible of visa options that you have. So people can have access and read more. And if they have any follow-up questions, they can reach out to you as well.
Sure.
Right. Thank you so much, Naisargi. and Art for joining me today. I wish you all lots of success and always your big fan. Thank you for joining us and sharing this advice. Very amazing.
Nisargi, yay! Good work.
Thank you.
She used every resource available to her, and ISSO came through.
Yes. Oh, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and definitely I will say that even in your networking planning, it's not just your hiring managers, your potential hiring managers that you should network with. There's a lot of different people that you should talk to.
Excellent advice. Yes. Don't forget your circle of support system, right? Amazing. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And hopefully you're going to get the recording by next week. And I will see you in our one-on-one session. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Guys.
you.